Hello, everybody, and welcome to Current Status. This is episode 20, and it is May 14th. And we are going to be talking about Citrix Synergy this week. My name is Theresa Miller, and I can be found on Twitter at 24/7 IT Connect.
And my name is Melissa Palmer. You can find me on Twitter at vmiss33. So where are you this week, Theresa?
Orlando.
Ooh.
It's exciting, but I haven't seen much of the outdoors. It's a conference. So, that being said, we have two great guests with us this evening. And so I would like them to introduce themselves. I'm going to go ahead and we'll start with Dane. If you could introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself before we get started.
All right. Hey, hello, everyone. My name is Dane Young. I'm a Citrix technology professional and VMware vExpert. You can find me on Twitter at YoungTech or my blog, which is itvce.com.
Excellent. And then we also have Carl Webster. Carl, if you could introduce yourself.
Hi, this is Webster. And Dane Young is my hero. And I'm also a Citrix technology professional. And it's hard to find me. My website is carlwebster.com. On Twitter, I'm Carl Webster.
And
what
did you say your name was
I'm
again?
Carl Webster. And on Facebook, I'm Carl Webster.
That's way too difficult,
What's your
man.
name again? I'm sorry, I missed that.
Everything is Carl Webster except for
Everyone just calls me
goes by
Webster.
Webster. Yeah.
That's right. So for the E2E family, I'm just granddad.
Yes, you are.
And by the way, Dane is younger than my youngest kid.
Uh-oh.
Thanks for that, Carl.
Yeah. Well, it is. There's a little more to that too, right, Dane? You're your youngest, most accomplished CTP as well, which is something.
I don't know about
of.
most accomplished. I'd say most privileged, perhaps, but maybe not most accomplished.
So does that mean if Dane's so young, I can be like, back in the day, and like in my day when I was a Citrix admin with like MetaFrame 1.8.
What's that? I've never heard of that before.
Exactly.
Meta what?
I don't think Dane was born when MetaFrame 1.8 came out.
I was MS4 master.
All right, so we've all been at Synergy this week, and there have been a lot of really great announcements. So we wanted to talk about the things that excited us all the most this week. So if one of you would like to start, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, Webster, you want to take the honor?
Okay, I'll start.
Go for it.
Sure. Most of the stuff that excited me was not in the keynotes.
Right.
The one thing, well, I think the thing that most excited me the most was OctaBlue and the possibilities around the integration of everything, or the Internet of Things, whatever you want to call it, but the possibilities of, I like to think of OctaBlue as the possibilities of automation on steroids, on how things can be automated, and just how I can see how it can be interacted with Zen Desktop and Zen App and Zen Mobile, and the way users can interact with the products that we deliver. After OctaBlue, the stuff that excited me was not in the conference. I'm excited about the new things that are coming out with HP Moonshot. Of course, from the last time I was on, y'all gave me the name HP Moonshot Stud. So I'm very excited about the new stuff that's coming out with HP Moonshot. I'm also excited about the stuff that's coming up with PVS, provisioning services. The next release that's coming out is going to get rid of some of the extreme pain points we've had, especially around PowerShell, especially around reverse imaging. So little things like that that were not even mentioned anywhere in any of the keynotes. That's what excites me.
Well, a lot of that is because you're an Uber geek, Carl. So you geek out on the weirdest of things like Octablue and PowerShell and Moonshot. What is that all about?
So
That's
Dane,
right. It's about making money.
the last time Carl was on, he adapted.
I'm sorry. I mean, I meant to say it's about serving the community. I'm sorry. I got my priorities out of order.
Right.
That's right.
I was going to say, you can also find Carl on Twitter at HP Moonshot Stud.
Is that right?
Or was
you
it
have
just
a new Twitter handle?
Did you do Moonshot Stud or HP Moonshot Stud?
I think it was just Moonshot Stud.
Okay.
I think.
And the profile photo is an HP Moonshot.
That's right. So now Dane has to tell us what excites him.
Well, there are a lot of things that excite me. As it relates to Citrix Technologies and Synergy, I think the couple things that kind of stood out to me and some of the discussions that I had with other people, some of the new innovation that Citrix is bringing to market, along the same lines as Octablue, but in a very different way. Citrix is doing a lot in terms of automation and cloud-based management, and one of the things that I've been excited about for about the last year or so, since they announced what the concept was about at last year's Synergy, they kind of gave us a sneak preview into what they were building that at the time was called Citrix Workspace Services, but is now commonly known as Citrix Workspace Cloud, or CWC for short.
Yes, I read about that this week.
What's that?
I read about that this week.
Yeah, so Citrix Workspace Cloud, I think, for those that have been doing Citrix much longer than I have, this is seriously going to change the game in terms of how we deploy, manage, and maintain Citrix environments, and that's the part that I'm really excited about. There's an automation component that's a part of that architecture called Citrix Lifecycle Management, and commonly known as CLM. And CLM has a ton of incredible automation capabilities to take not just the Citrix infrastructure and automate that, but pretty much anything within your organization that touches Citrix infrastructures can be automated with that solution.
Yeah, I agree with both of you on both of those points. My top two were definitely Octablue and the Workspace Cloud. Octablue for the business, I think, is going to be amazing. When you look at automating how we do our work, I think it's going to really simplify that. And the Workspace Cloud, it's the way the industry is moving. And you're right, Dane, it is a game changer. And I am so excited for that to come out and be available to start using it and deploying in it and seeing what that really means for organizations. So, you know what else I enjoyed that it doesn't sound like Carl would agree, but at least, in terms of the keynote this year, there were a lot of announcements, and whether they were exciting announcements or not, it really showed me that Citrix has taken some time this year to do some innovating and hard work and get some really good stuff out there for their customers, like the Zen Server perspective, the Zen App perspective with feature packs, and lots of great stuff there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Yes.
Okay, question. What's
It's
up
nice
with
to
Zen
see Citrix
Server?
admitting they screwed up.
Right.
Zen Server, does that still exist? Like, what's the deal with that? Give me a rundown.
Carl, you want to take that one, or you want me to take that one?
Zen Server still exists. Yeah, Zen Server still exists. Zen Server is a very viable product. They're coming out with, was it Service Pack 1?
Yeah, Service
Yeah,
Pack
or
1.
actually
Yeah,
they've
it
already
was.
released Service Pack 1. Yes.
Yep.
So for a
Already been
while
released,
there,
and Citrix has more on the roadmap for Zen Server.
for a while, I almost felt like they kind of almost abandoned it for a while. It didn't seem like they were really focusing on it as much. So do you think that's something they're going to kind of heads down again and try to, become a player in the hypervisor space now that we're seeing a lot of environments with multiple hypervisors?
Yeah, I think for me
Yes,
personally,
Citrix admitted they screwed up.
All right.
Stop it! Stop saying that, Carl. We got it. We got it. Yeah, no, I think one of the big releases for Zen Server actually came at the beginning of the year. When they moved from 6.2 to 6.5, there was some architecture changes in the way that Zen Server is implemented from a code-based perspective. And 6.5 is now a fully 64-bit architecture.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the hypervisor components in 6.2 and previous versions were 64-bit, except for this control domain component called DOM0, which was still a 32-bit based architecture. So with 6.5, it's full 64-bit all the way in and throughout. And ultimately what that means is that they're getting closer to being able to have larger memory address spaces and larger number of processor cores being under management, where that used to be a challenge when they had 32-bit limitations within Zen Server. So Service Pack 1, I think, is really important because it's the first Service Pack release on the new architecture. So there's a lot of bug fixes and things like that come along with that, as well as some new features. One of the things that they now support in 6.5's Feature Pack or Service Pack 1 is the ability to take Intel GPUs and pass them through the hypervisor, very similar to the way that NVIDIA GPUs work with direct pass-through mode. So it's pretty exciting stuff. Zen Server is continuing to innovate as it relates to graphics virtualization. And as we saw with Zen Server, 18 months ago, they were the first to adopt the NVIDIA Grid platform that is now available on both Zen Server and vSphere. So I expect that trend to continue with Zen Server. Well, it's not applicable across the board in every use case. There are select use cases where Zen Server makes a lot of sense for those very reasons.
Cool.
Something else that came up too, I noticed that there were with that update was some open source capabilities as well as Docker integration. Missy, I know you're a huge Docker fan.
Yeah, so I believe 6.5 has Core. Now you can use CoreOS and Docker with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Citrix also announced that they rejoined the OpenStack Federation, because maybe they messed up for a little while and weren't doing that. Just saying.
Yeah, so I think that I agree with it. Zen Server is here to stay. I think, Missy, when you mentioned that it had kind of fallen out of view for a little while, I think some of that came about even like 4 years ago already.
It did.
So, yeah, and then this year is when I've really seen a lot more going into that. But
so I'm trying to remember what happened like back in the day, because I'm like the old person now. So Citrix bought Zen. They renamed Metaframe Presentation for Server to ZenApp. So ZenApp 5 came out, and that's around the time there was a lot of Zen Server stuff. And I remember specifically that in vSphere, the context switching in Citrix just worked like crap. So it was really hard to virtualize Citrix servers years ago, and that's where Zen Server was making its name a lot in that space. And then they did that whole weird, like, really rapid Citrix version release thing, like ZenApp 5, ZenApp 5.5, and they were ending support for older versions really fast. They were just messy for a while in there, I remember.
yeah, I think you're going to see a lot more structure around that going forward. Again, with
That's
the
exciting.
announcements we've seen, the announcements we saw at Synergy, it seems like that's going to be better going forward.
I've always found Citrix to be really cool. I used it a lot in my prior life. I was it was core infrastructure and virtualization, so the team was basically like the Citrix and the VMware team. So when I first joined the team, I was kind of doing all the stuff. I was doing Citrix stuff and I was doing VMware stuff, and it was a lot of fun. It's a really good technology. It was amazing the stuff we would do with it.
Yeah. So, guys, what else from the Synergy perspective would you like to share with anybody watching today?
Workspace Pod.
Workspace Pod. What's a Workspace Pod?
Based
Tell
on
me.
Workspace Pod, based on right now, Moonshot. Woo, Moonshot. It's let's see, how would I put it? It's a pre-built, pre-packaged, highly optimized, self-contained thing.
A pod?
To optimize Citrix workload. The pod. It is a pod. So it has all your storage and compute, all that good stuff in there.
So it's a converged.
And right now, based on Moonshot.
A converged infrastructure. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that too. I think that'll be
with the Melio cluster file system in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not just a converged infrastructure or hyper-converged infrastructure. It's an ultra-converged infrastructure.
Ooh, that's the first time I've heard ultra-converged.
That's the first time? You haven't caught on the buzzword?
I have not. I'm going to put it on my bingo board for buzzword bingo next time I play.
There you go. Yeah, so buzzword bingo. Ultra-converged infrastructure is the addition of GPU acceleration in the processing of... Yeah, exactly. So you got new buzzword bingo.
That's classy.
Yeah. So the Moonshot architecture...
Ultra-converged.
That's ultra-converged. Yeah, the Moonshot architecture that's part of the Workspace Pod, as Carl was describing, has... what HP calls their M710 cartridges, which are Intel cartridges that have Iris Pro graphics. They're based on the E3 processor. And so each of your XenApp sessions that you're running on there are going to have GPU acceleration. And the reason why that's different than like a NVIDIA Grid vGPU type of use case is it's more like what we're seeing in a lot of the scale-out application architectures, like Hadoop and MongoDB and some of the other ones, where it's more of a scale out versus a scale up. Instead of putting large monolithic GPUs into rack-based or blade servers, you have GPU compute power on every cartridge, and you scale out within the chassis. It's pretty exciting stuff.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah, very awesome. So Synergy has a party going on right now too, don't they? Got to have the full Synergy experience, right? So Universal, everyone's down at Universal.
Cool. Everyone except us old people.
Yeah, my apologies about the background noise. I think people can kind of tell by now that it's quite a hopping party here.
Did you go on the Hogwarts Express?
Of course. I couldn't not do that.
Okay, good. Just checking. And what house are you in? Just curious.
I don't know. That must be
okay, it's a Harry Potter thing. It's a little much. Too young for that, maybe. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, you guys must be big Harry Potter fans. I don't know what you're talking about.
I am a huge Harry Potter fan. I was there in December, and I went like on the Hogwarts Express. I went to both things. It was a lot of fun. Maybe I'll wear my Harry Potter sweater for one webcast.
Everybody was raving about the butterbeer, so I made sure I got myself some butterbeer.
There you go.
apparently this is a big Harry Potter thing.
It is a very big Harry Potter thing.
Sounds awesome. All right, well, have we covered everything, guys?
Well, I mean, there's definitely a lot more, and for anybody that's interested in catching some of the highlights from the keynotes, there's a lot of blog posts that are out there on the various socials. So probably one of the easiest thing to do is to find people that are active in the blogging space and on Twitter that were at the conference. There's a lot of content out there from people that have done various write-ups on some of the announcements that were made. So definitely check those resources out.
That's true. You know, we also launched a Citrix user group this week as well.
That's right.
That's
Ooh.
yeah, that's a big deal. I was pretty impressed
That
with.
was a huge success.
Yeah, and what
Big
I
success.
really love about the site is there's a forum, and where people can go to share information in more of a community, Citrix supported way.
Right. That's absolutely right. And I think
Yeah.
there have been regionalized Citrix user groups in the past. A couple that kind of stand out to me as being very well pronounced and successful are, the UK Citrix users group and the Dutch Citrix users group. They've had a lot of good success, but traditionally they're typically regionalized and not as well organized from a North American and EMEA perspective. And the CUGC, mycugc.org website is really going to be the main hub for all things related to Citrix user groups moving forward. So Citrix has made a pretty big investment in building that platform and getting everybody on board with that platform. So it's going to be pretty exciting to see how that organization structure helps some of the local organizers put some more context around their user groups.
Yeah, I agree. I know in our area we do not have any form of a user group outside of what like our Citrix technical contact does, and in that
Right.
in that venue it's really more of a sales type situation,
Yep.
a sponsored event by a company. Granted, you learn a lot about what's going on at Citrix. So, for example, there will probably be a follow-up to Citrix Synergy, for example, for people who couldn't make it. But these communities can become something much with more depth, and that will be wonderful for the Citrix community.
Yeah.
That's cool.
No, I do actually, before we start wrapping up, I do want to geek out a little bit and talk about some of the things that Citrix is doing that I'm particularly interested in. And a lot of these have to do with protocol optimizations. So many that have worked with Citrix in the past or have been a Citrix user in the past know that a lot of the secret sauce with Citrix has to do with their protocol. ICA, evolving into HGX and all the peripheral user experience components that go along with that. And there's two big things that are coming out in the second quarter. Citrix has committed to that. The first has to do with an improvement of the user experience across low bandwidth, higher latency connections. And that's their second generation, if you will, codec. That there was a code name internally that everybody refers to it as, but I don't think we can use that code name anymore. And there's significant improvements in that over what's currently known as command remoting with the display protocol. So that's a little bit geekier. There's certain use cases where that will be much better, much more optimized for the user environment and the user experience. The other one is actually much easier to explain, and this one's very near and dear to my heart, as I've been a Citrix user, a consumer, and an administrator implementer for a number of years now. It has to do with connections very similar to what I'm on right now, which is not just high latency connections, but also high packet loss. As the world moves more and more towards mobile and wireless, and 3G and LTE and 4G connections, having a consistent, reliable network connection with effectively 0% packet loss is not really a easy scenario to achieve anymore in a mobile world. And in high latency and high packet loss situations, there's a solution that a product that Citrix acquired about a year and a half ago or so now, called FrameHawk, that is now going to be fully integrated into the technology stack. And it consists of both a client-side and a server-side component to significantly enhance the user experience in very high packet loss conditions. Most every remoting protocol that's on the market today, whether that's Microsoft RDP or Citrix ICA HDX or even PC over IP, they're protocols that are built to withstand about 1 to 2% packet loss before the protocol starts falling apart and the user experience is impacted or impaired. And FrameHawk is a protocol that was built from the ground up with a lot of various intelligence and good technology to withstand up to 50% packet loss.
Wow.
While still being able to maintain a quality user experience.
Okay, that's really cool.
It's super cool, and that's a bit more geeky because it's not a new product that Citrix is releasing. It's not a new feature that is going to require a new licensing level. It's just something that's going to be baked into the product, and that means a lot to me in this more and more mobilized world where, as an administrator, as an engineer, we can't necessarily guarantee that people are going to have the most reliable of network conditions, and being able to actively detect those conditions and fail over to a protocol that was better optimized for high packet loss conditions, that's going to be huge from a user experience perspective.
It will be.
That's
absolutely.
Yeah. Speaking of packet loss, I'm really impressed with how our connectivity this evening. We have 2 of us on hotel Wi-Fi and 1 of us on a mobile device.
Yeah.
And it actually, for me, has been pretty darn clear. So
I'm just sitting here in my fiber optic connection.
Yeah. Oh, you're just spoiled and pampered over there.
To the world.
She's all spoiled.
Yeah. No, I think that tells a lot about the way that the world is moving, in how the space is changing. One of the people in the industry that I admire a lot, Doug Brown, over the last week, he in a session shared some of his experiences with hoteling in other countries, and specifically in Berlin, and he had all kinds of challenges getting reliable, consistent internet at a price that's affordable. And I think that's kind of the way that the world is turning and the way that the world is moving into a more and more mobile, more and more anywhere at any time type of scenario. And there's a great book that I talked about in my session that I'd highly recommend for anybody that influences the organizational side or the business side. That's called Remote, Office Not Required, and it's a very easy read. It's a couple hundred pages, but there's a lot of visuals and things like that in there. And it's from the guys that developed the Ruby on Rails platform, and how they took their software company, and when they started it and contributed to Ruby on Rails and the open source community, how they started their company with the premise of, we don't want to ever be in a position where we have to require that people report to an office in order to be functional and efficient within our organization. And they've, to this date, held and maintained that, held true to that. And it's a really cool book that deals with a lot of the objections that traditional organizations, brick and mortar organizations, have with the remote work style and the new world of IT, as HP likes to call it. So it's a pretty cool read if anybody's interested in the organizational
really cool, yeah.
shift and the business side of things and how to change organizational processes for the better.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's true. It is a mindset. It is a mind mindset shift. Not every organization is that flexible. Was that Yahoo? Where they actually reined that all
Yeah,
in?
that was Yahoo.
Yeah.
It was
where-
actually Yahoo and HP. I have many colleagues at HP that said that, you know, the Yahoo CEO, whoever that was, it had implemented a policy where they pulled back on remote, and then
Yeah.
also a number of colleagues from HP said, you know, that they got cut back on the percentage of time that they can be remote. Meg Whitman got really upset with people having barking dogs and things like that in the background, and so they cut way back on that. And they actually, that incident, that Yahoo incident, happened just before they published the book Remote, and they actually used that case study in the book to talk about how it's done a lot for exposure, for others to see that large organizations, very large organizations like Yahoo, like eBay, who's probably the biggest in that space of enabling remote work styles for a Fortune 100 company, talking about how much exposure there is out there to that new style of workspaces.
Yeah, I agree. I think organizations will, and many are already more flexible to that remote work, and it's a nice trend. I mean, you end up, when you work remotely, you almost end up putting in more hours than if you drove into the office. You know, you just get started right away in the morning, and then sometimes you forget to stop.
You know, for somebody that is unfortunate enough to live in California, one of the probably worst states in terms of commute, I can say that for me in my career, it's meant the world of a difference in terms of my motivation, in terms of how I feel in the morning, and jumping into things and being ready to hit the ground running.
Absolutely.
When I'm working remote, doesn't have to be from home, and that's one of the things that they talk about in the book. Is some people prefer to do the executive offices, the hoteling stations that are becoming very popular. That a lot of people's objections to working remote, and I think this ties into a lot of what we're talking about with Synergy, because Citrix has always been the company on the forefront of enabling an anywhere work style. And one of the things that they talk about in the book is that people often use the objection of distractions as their justification for not wanting to enable people to have flexible work styles. And one of the things that they talk about in the book that's really powerful to me is that in an office scenario, it's quite often that you have more distractions from coworkers and colleagues and managers and these other people that you interact with, just making stop-ins and just completely derailing you from what you had on your plans for the day, because whatever it is that they have that they need you to do for them is the most important thing for them. And there's distractions everywhere, whether that's at home, whether that's at the coffee shop, wherever that may be. And no distraction is lesser or greater evil if it detracts you from getting your productivity in and doing the job that you're set out to do. So I think that's one of the main key messages that they have in the book.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much, both of you, for
Yes,
joining.
thank you, gentlemen, for joining us.
Been awesome. So, and thank you to everybody who's listening tonight. Have a great evening.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.